when I was a little girl dreaming of being a Broadway actress. That was my longtime dream from the time I was 5 years old. Entrepreneur never came to mind. That was never something that I was like, oh, and I want to do that too. But that's the beauty of life, right? We don't always know where our journey is going to take us. So, as you shared with our listeners, yes, I have done 5 Broadway shows, and Pretty Woman the musical was the
Mm,
most recent Broadway show I did, which closed in 2019.
wow.
And while performing in that show, I was not only in the cast, but I was assistant to the choreographer and I was the
Oh,
dance captain.
oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, that was really cool for me because it was the first time in my career that I wasn't the one in front of the table waiting to be chosen, but now I was behind the table getting to help other actors with learning the show and running
Mhm.
auditions. So it was amazing to now have this double-sided perspective. It made
Mm.
made things really clear,
Oh,
because
wow.
in the entertainment field, there is a whole lot of rejection, and
Mm,
it feels so personal if you don't take the time to do what I say, which is communicate within yourself
mm,
and remind yourself that even though it can feel like a personal attack when a casting director says, "No, we're not gonna call you back," or, "No, you didn't get the role," as long as you're staying true to yourself and you're being your best under the circumstances, that's all you have control over.
mm,
So with being dance captain and assistant to the choreographer and really being on that creative side of the industry, it allowed me to see that it's not always the most talented person who gets the role, but it's the one who fits the bill at that time.
yes.
Or if they're looking for a girl 5'9" and I'm 5'2" like I am, even if I'm the best dancer in the room, I'm not gonna get the job, right?
Yep.
So it's interesting to look in hindsight that my new career as a communication coach was being built up all through my years as a performer because
Mhm.
I have always been a communicator through these different mediums, through stage, then through film, then through television, through one-on-one. And as a girl who grew up in an Italian American family, I've always loved communication. You could find my family and I sitting around the kitchen table, always eating, laughing, sometimes yelling, but nonetheless communicating. And from there, it really set off this fire within me to want to understand the different ways that people communicate and why they do in the way they do. So fast forward to 2017, I had moved back from Los Angeles. My husband and I lived there for 3.5 years after I filmed the Jersey Boys movie directed
Mm,
by Clint Eastwood. And we decided, okay, we want to get back to the East Coast, buy a home. We're both from New Jersey.
mm,
And once I got back, I got cast in Pretty Woman, the musical. It was the final workshop that then went to Broadway.
mm.
And during that time, John, I, as always, was conversating with my girlfriends in the dressing room and chatting about this and chatting about that. And I was always that person that people would come to for advice about communication. What should I say? How should I say it? And I remember one day, a friend who was dating a new guy, she was telling us how she was really into him and she didn't know where it was going. And I asked her a question that I assumed the answer would be something that it wasn't. And
Oh.
I said, well, have you talked to him about it? Assuming, right? We all fall into the assumption pattern. And she was like, assuming she was going to say, oh, of course. And she said, oh, no way. I don't want to bring it up. I don't want to rock the boat. And it was like a light bulb went off. And I said, oh my goodness, this is a response that I've heard many a times now. There's a book in here. I'd
Mm,
always wanted to write my own book. I've written tons of children's books, personalized children's books for my nieces and nephews and friends.
hmm.
But I was ready to write my own book. And like many of you, it was one of those dreams that I talked about a lot, but it was like someday I'll write that book, haha.
Mhm.
Believing that talking about it would keep that dream safely alive in the arms of my words.
Mm.
Yet I wasn't doing it. And in 2017, John, it was the night before Thanksgiving. I was watching a Charlie Brown Christmas on the TV.
Mhm.
And I said to myself, Renee, enough already with talking the talk. Sit down and write the first sentence. And that's what I did. And as I started to write, communication is so broad. I believe it's a foundational skill. To me, it's as important as breathing.
Mm.
But when I was thinking about what aspect of communication to write about, I didn't quite know until I was out to dinner with a friend of mine. We're catching up, chatting the whole time. And next to us, it's a family of five, two parents, a teenage son, and two young children. The entire meal, John, none of them spoke because they all had their heads down in a digital device.
Oh. Mm.
And I remember looking over and feeling heartbroken because I thought, wow, they're missing out on these beautiful moments of connection.
Mm.
These moments that in my own life have helped to shape me. And they're spending that time behind a screen. And that's when I was like, boom, that's what this book needs to be about. So as you shared my subtitle of balancing new school technology with old school simplicity, what this means is being able to merge these two worlds of new school technology, all of our social media, texting, emailing, balancing those digital forms of communication with the more personal old school ways of communication, i.e., face to face, picking up the actual phone for a phone conversation or writing a handwritten letter, which is a
Right.
beautiful art that is becoming lost. Being able to merge these two worlds so we can master our communication and have the best that life has to offer.